She was shivering in the dark, but not from the cold. It was a warm night, in fact, but she couldn't keep her body from shaking. She had a long, white sleeping gown on, and no sarwal, the traditional underpants she had worn all evening. Her sister and his mother had made sure of that when they took the wedding clothes off her, slowly and delicately, one piece at a time. She had pleaded for them to do it, and not the Nagafa who had dressed her and undressed her all through the night as she changed from one costume to the next, looking exquisite in her colorful and elaborate headdresses and jewelry. She started crying a little, but Zor, her sister, scolded her, whispering in her ear to behave herself and not make a fuss. She held a trembling hand out to Lala, her sweet mother-in-law. "Save me," her eyes were imploring. Lala gazed for a brief instant at the anguished, frail-looking 13-year-old with tears in her clear gray eyes. Ever so lightly, she touched her cheek with the back of her hand, letting her fingers linger. "It'll be all right, baby. Don't worry. It will be okay. I promise," she said softly. And then they left the room hurriedly, taking the wedding caftans with them and closing the door behind. She was trapped then, and utterly lonely. The joyful chanting of the women assembled outside grew louder, and he entered the nuptial chamber, dressed in a magnificent white jalaba, which oddly made him look even older and wearier than his 33 years. She was sitting in the bed, pale and frightened, and so small. She appeared to him like a lovely painted doll, a little skinny doll, smaller than he remembered her, he said later. Her dark hair was pulled back, and she still had her festive makeup, rouge on the perfect lips and cheeks, kohl lining the already black, fiery eyes, hands and feet decorated with henna in intricate designs intended to bring good luck and protect her against evil spirits. Ironically, she thought, her luck had just run out, and she was looking at evil straight in the eyes. But she was not looking at him. She was too afraid to. Her heart was pounding hard in her chest, and she felt nauseous. He turned off the lantern set on the table in the middle of the room. She heard him move in the dark, undressing himself quickly. That's when the quivering began. She couldn't help it. She lowered herself on the bed, crossing her arms on her chest, stiff as a corpse. If only the darkness could swallow her into oblivion. She felt him crawling in the bed next to her. "Don't be afraid," he said gently. He didn't touch her at first, and she kept very still, her legs stretched tight, hoping, praying that he would just go to sleep and let her be. She could hear the noises outside, the voices of women and their laughter. The celebration was still going on. They were going to be serving the traditional harira for breakfast soon. For a while, he just lay there next to her, motionless. She could hear him recite a short prayer, and he repeated in a whisper, as if to reassure himself as much as her. "Don't be afraid." He smelled of musk oil and soap and tobacco. Finally, he seemed to be taking a deep breath, and he extended his hand under the sheet, touching her arm. She unconsciously shielded herself from him. Her fear was palpable, her breathing short and fast-paced. He moved closer to her, repeating again, "Don't be afraid. You know we must do this. It's God's will." He reached for her leg, fumbled a little with her gown, his long shirt. She could feel his hand on her thigh, and she let out a sob.